Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are doing something a little different.
A little bit of an inward journey.
Exactly. Usually we take you outward, we look at tech trends, we look at history, how the universe works. But today we are looking inward. We're going to pop the hood on the machinery of your own decision-making.
Which is, let's be honest, probably the most important machine you operate.
It is. And specifically, we're going to try to solve a mystery that I think plagues every single one of us, whether we want to admit it or not.
Oh, it definitely does. And it's a mystery that can be incredibly expensive if you don't solve it.
Incredibly expensive. Okay, so here's the mystery. Why do smart people, and I mean really smart people, people who are educated, rational, successful in their careers, people who read books, why did they constantly get trapped by the news?
Right. Or why does doing your own research, which is like the golden rule of the internet age,
It's the mantra, right? DYOR.
why does it so often lead us to the absolute wrong conclusion?
Yeah, and why, when we look at the financial markets or even just, the flow of information on social media, do we sometimes get that feeling, that sense that we're perpetually one step behind the real action?
It's that sinking feeling, that cold realization that you are the greater fool.
The greater fool. Let's start right there. It's a term that gets thrown around in finance all the
Yeah.
time, but I want to make sure we really get the mechanics of it. What are we actually talking about?
Well, the greater fool theory, in its sort of simple textbook economic definition, it states that it doesn't really matter what an asset is actually worth.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if a stock or a house or, a tulip bulb back in the day is objectively garbage.
Right.
It only matters if there's someone else, a greater fool, who is willing to pay a higher price for it than you did, as long as you can find that person to sell to.
You win. You made a profit.
You win. It's a game of hot potato,
Yeah.
and you pass the potato. But if you're the last one to buy,
And you're the one holding the potato when the music stops.
you lose. But in the context of the source material we're covering today, the concept is so much deeper than just price. It's about being the person who provides the exit liquidity.
Exit liquidity. Unpack that for us.
You are the person holding the bag. You are the crowd that rushes in so the insiders can rush out. You're the person acting on information that someone else has already exploited. You are, in a sense, the necessary victim that allows the smart money to cash out.
And nobody wants to be that person. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know what? I hope I can be someone's exit liquidity today.
No, absolutely not. But the terrifying part, and this is really what we're going to explore today, is that the system is specifically designed to manufacture that person. It's not an accident.
It's not a bug. It's a feature.
It's a feature. The market needs fools the way a car needs gas.
Okay, so to help us stop being the fuel for someone else's car, we have a really fascinating set of documents today. This isn't a bestseller you can pick up at an airport bookstore. This is an internal analysis report from a pretty niche group called the Red Team Trading Community. Right.
And it's authored by someone writing under the pseudonym Darwinian.
And right off the bat, that name, Red Team, that gives you a huge clue about the perspective here.
What does that signal to you?
Well, in military strategy or cybersecurity, a red team isn't the group that builds the defenses. They're not the blue team. They're the group hired to attack the system.
They're the professional hackers.
Exactly. They're paid to find the flaws.
Yeah.
They don't look at how things should work according to the manual. They look at how things actually break. They look for the exploits, the backdoors, the psychological loopholes.
And the vibe of this document, I mean, honestly, it's intense.
It is.
It reads less like a financial textbook and more like a psychological manifesto, or maybe a field guide for survival in an information war. It's just very direct, it strips away all the bullshit, does not hold your hand.
It can't, because the stakes are too high. The author, Darwinian, is presenting a framework for reading systems. And I want to stress that word, systems.
Because while the text focuses heavily on the stock market, because, that's where the money provides a clear scorecard, what's so fascinating is that he explicitly says this applies to everything.
So it's not just for traders.
Not at all. It applies to the news cycle. It applies to office politics. It applies to high-stakes negotiations. It even applies to, how social movements are formed. It's about pushing past the surface noise, the headlines, the candles on the chart, the tweets, to understand the hidden mechanics of manipulation.
So with that, here is our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are going to dismantle what this document calls the bad bandar mentality.
A very specific term. We'll get into that.
We'll get into what that means later. It's a very specific type of victimhood. But essentially, we want to replace that victim mentality with a functional framework for reading flow.
The goal here is pretty ambitious. The idea is that by the end of this hour, when you, the listener, look at a news headline or a stock chart, you won't just see information. You won't just see company X did this.
You'll see something else.
You will see a structure. You'll see the scaffolding behind the facade. You'll see the intent.
We're going to talk about the difference between motive and incentive, which sounds, I know, a bit academic, but I promise you, it is the absolute key to the whole thing.
It's the engine room.
We're going to talk about why news is actually an incentive structure dressed as facts. That's a direct quote. And we're going to discuss the difference between thinking about the world in terms of a puppet master versus thinking in terms of traffic police.
And that analogy, the traffic police, is honestly one of the most useful mental models I've come across in a long, long time. It completely changes how you view power and influence.
How so?
It takes it out of the realm of, like, shadowy conspiracy theory and puts it into a mechanical reality you can actually observe and navigate.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. Let's start at the very beginning of the framework. The document opens with a distinction that seems so simple on the surface, but the author claims it is where everyone, and he means everyone, even the pros, gets confused.
They get it wrong from step one.
The difference between motive and incentive.
Right. And in casual conversation, in everyday language, we use these words almost interchangeably, don't we?
Yeah, totally.
We say, what's his incentive to do that? Or what's his motive? As if they're the same thing. We treat them as synonyms for reason.
But in this framework,
They are not only different, they are opposing forces in a mechanism. They are two distinct parts of the machine. You cannot understand any system if you mix them up.
okay, so let's define them as Darwinian does. Let's be very precise. What is motive?
Motive is internal. That is the key word you have to burn into your brain, internal.
Okay.
It is pre-existing energy. It's the stuff that sits inside the person before anything happens in the outside world. Think of the most basic things: hunger, ambition, fear of loss, curiosity, greed, lust.
These are primal drives.
They're primal drives. They exist within your biology or your psychology, regardless of what's happening around you. The document calls it stored energy. It's just sitting there waiting to be used.
Okay, so motive is the gas in the tank. It's the potential energy. I am hungry, I am greedy, I am scared. That's just a state of being inside my head.
Exactly. It's the raw fuel. It's what's in the tank before you even turn the key. Now, compare that to incentive.
Right.
Incentive is external. It is a structure provided by the environment. It's outside of you.
Give me some examples.
So a financial bonus, a penalty or a fine, social approval, getting likes on social media,
Yeah.
a plate of food sitting on a table, or, and this is key for the trading world, the price movements on a chart. A green candle is an incentive. A red candle is an incentive.
I see. So the bonus is the external incentive. The hunger for money, the greed, is the internal motive.
Precisely. And here is the critical interaction that the document highlights. And this is the portable sentence you need to memorize because it unlocks everything else.
Okay.
Incentives do not create energy, they channel it.
Ooh, say it again?
Incentives do not create energy, they channel it. An incentive works only, and I mean only, if it hooks a pre-existing motive.
Okay. I like the analogy we discussed during prep to really nail this down.
Thanks.
Let's use that. If you offer a beautiful sizzling steak dinner, that's the incentive to a vegetarian.
It doesn't work.
Right.
The incentive is there. The steak is real. It's cooked perfectly. It smells amazing. The external structure is perfect. But there is no internal motive, no hunger for meat for it to latch onto. So the behavior doesn't happen. The incentive fails. But you offer that same steak to a starving person who loves meat. Now you have motion. Now you have action. The external incentive connected with the internal motive, and the system works.
So to use the document's exact terms, motives are the fuel, incentives are the steering mechanism.
That's the core concept. That's the foundation for everything that follows. Motive is the fuel, incentive is the steering. If you are trying to analyze why a system is working, or more often why it's failing, you have to look at both. You can't just look at the road signs, which are the incentives, and ignore the gas tank, the motive.
This leads right into the diagnostics of dysfunction part of the report. This was so interesting because it treats this almost like an engineering problem, like troubleshooting a machine.
And it's exactly like that.
If a trade isn't working, or a negotiation is failing, or your marketing campaign completely flops, you have to ask, is this a fuel problem or a steering problem?
Right. Let's take a simple workplace example. Let's say you're a manager. You create this brilliant bonus structure, an incentive to get your sales team to work harder. You offer a $1,000 bonus for every new client they sign.
Seems like a good incentive.
Seems great. But Nobody works harder. The numbers stay completely flat.
And a bad manager, a lazy manager, says, my team is lazy. They're unmotivated.
Exactly. They blame the people, they say the fuel is bad. But a manager using this framework asks a different question. They ask, did I steer energy that wasn't there? Maybe the team isn't motivated by more money. Maybe they're already paid well enough, but they are completely burnt out. If their dominant motive is need for rest, offering them an incentive that requires more work, even for more money, is going to fail.
It's like offering a steak to someone who's already full.
Precisely. Or maybe they are motivated by recognition and status, not cash. If you offer cash to someone who craves a fancy title, you have a mismatch. Motive without a fitting incentive is just wasted energy. Incentive without a matching motive is an ineffective structure. It's just noise.
This applies so perfectly to reading the crowd, which is what so much of trading really is. You aren't just looking at numbers and lines on a screen.
No, you're looking at a crowd of human beings. You're looking at a stadium full of emotions.
And you're trying to figure out what they're going to do next.
So you have to ask, what is the dominant emotion? Is the crowd currently fueled by fear? Or are they fueled by greed? That's the gas in the tank. Once you identify the fuel, then you can look for the steering. What is the market structure doing to that fear? Is it amplifying it? Is it giving it a specific direction to go?
Which brings us perfectly to the next section, the practical application to trading. Now, I know not all of our listeners are day traders, but please stick with us here because the way this document describes a stock chart is it's fascinating. It says the chart is a map of psychology.
It completely removes the abstraction. A lot of people, when they first look at a stock chart, they see geometry. They see lines, triangles, head and shoulders, patterns, support levels, resistance zones.
It feels like math.
Yeah.
It feels objective and cold.
Right. It feels like physics. Darwinian argues it's not math, it's behavior. It's not physics, it's psychology. Every single time you look at a chart, you are seeing the interplay of motive and incentive visualized for you in real time.
Okay, so walk us through this. Let's make it concrete. If I'm looking at a chart of, say, the S&P 500, how do I see motive?
You have to ask, what is the dominant emotion in the crowd right now? So let's say the market is crashing. All you see are big red candles everywhere. The news is terrible.
Panic.
The dominant motive is fear, specifically the fear of loss, the fear of seeing your retirement account get cut in half. That is the energy in the system. It's high-octane, explosive fuel. People are absolutely terrified.
Okay, so the motive is fear. Now, what's the incentive in that moment?
The incentive is the price action itself. So let's say the price breaks through a really well-known support level, a floor price that everyone was watching, say 4,000 on the S&P.
A line in the sand.
A line in the sand that everyone agreed was important. When the price hits 3,999, that breakdown, that specific event, is an external signal. It is an incentive structure. It says to the crowd, the floor is gone, the thing you thought would save you is broken, it is time to panic.
And because the crowd is already primed with fear, that's the motive, that incentive, the breakdown, effectively steers them all to hit the sell button at the same time.
Exactly. The chart structure activates and directs the pre-existing fear. It gives that fear a clear instruction. Sell now. Now, here's the cool part. Imagine the exact same price movement, a drop to 3,999, but in a completely different context.
Yeah.
Let's say the market had been boring and flat for years. No one's scared. They're just bored. And maybe they're looking for a good entry point. Their motive isn't fear of loss. It's more like fear of missing out on the next big run. They're opportunistic.
In that case, the drop to 3,999 might be seen as a discount, a sale.
Exactly, a buying opportunity.
Yeah.
The external signal, the price dropping below 4,000, is identical. The incentive is the same. But the internal fuel, the motive, is completely different.
So the car goes a different direction.
The completely different direction. Instead of triggering panic selling, you trigger bargain hunting.
This is why two different people, or even the same person on two different days, can look at the exact same data point and do opposite things. It all depends on what's happening inside them.
And the operator, or the smart money, the people we are trying to understand, the people who actually make the real money in these systems, they know this. They live and breathe this. They know that if they can create a certain structure on the chart, the incentive, they can reliably trigger the motive that is already sitting in your head.
They are steering your greed. They're steering your fear.
And notice, they aren't creating the greed. You brought the greed to the table. You walked into the casino with greed in your pocket. They are just providing the flashing lights and the perfectly designed road signs that say, greed this way.
That is, Slightly terrifying. It makes you realize how reactive and predictable we can be.
It is, but it's also empowering because now you can see the mechanism, you can see the steering wheel and the gas pedal.
But here is where the document takes a turn, and it gets really interesting and honestly, a little darker. We transition from charts, which feel somewhat abstract, to the news.
And this is the section, this is the part of the report that really forces a paradigm shift. If you take nothing else away from this entire deep dive, please burn this section into your mind.
So the standard view of the news, the view that I think 99% of people grow up with, the view that is taught in civics class, is that news is just information.
Right. It's a mirror held up to reality.
It's neutral reporting of facts.
Yeah.
Something happened, a reporter saw it, they wrote it down, it got published, I read it. End of story.
And Darwinian says, absolutely not. That is a dangerously naive view. The quote from the text is, news is not just information. It is an incentive structure dressed as facts.
An incentive structure dressed as facts.
Okay, that is a heavy sentence. Let's really digest that. What does that mean? It means it implies design. It implies intent. It means that the news isn't just what happened. It's a product that was manufactured. Someone, an editor, a journalist, a PR firm, a hedge fund, someone created that news piece.
They chose the words.
They chose the words. They decided exactly when to release it, down to the minute. They crafted the headline. They selected the photo. They decided the tone. It is not a neutral mirror. It is a tool designed to have an effect.
And the greater fool, the person who is providing the exit liquidity, is the person who treats the news as reality to react to.
Right. The fool reads the headline, company X profits soar by 20% and thinks, oh, great news, the company's doing well, I should buy the stock. They are reacting. They are the car following the road sign.
While the smart player.
The smart player asks a totally different question. The smart player reads that same headline and asks, why am I being shown this headline right now?
So the document gives us two specific defensive questions to ask ourselves so we don't become that exit liquidity. I want to drill these into our heads. Let's start with question one. What is this news trying to accomplish?
This is asking about the steering. Remember, news is an incentive, and incentives are designed to steer behavior. So what behavior is this headline, this article, this TV segment trying to induce in you, the consumer?
Is it trying to create buy pressure?
Is it trying to get you to hold on to a stock that's crashing by telling you everything's fine? Is it trying to create panic so you'll sell your shares cheap? Is it maybe just a distraction from something else entirely?
It's so weird to think of a news article as having a goal for my behavior. I mean, I always think of ads as having a goal, obviously, but not news.
And that's the whole trick, isn't it? Ads look like ads. They announce their intent. News looks like truth. It's camouflaged. But in financial markets, news is almost always functional. It's a tool. The goal is often to create liquidity.
Let's walk through the mechanics of a dump, as they call it. If a big player, a hedge fund, an institution, a bank, wants to sell a huge amount of stock, they can't just go and click sell on their computer.
Why not?
Well, because if they dump, say, $100 million of stock onto the market all at once, the price would crash instantly.
Right. There simply aren't enough buyers at the current price to absorb that much selling pressure. They would literally crash the price against themselves and get a terrible fill.
So they need buyers. They need a crowd to show up.
They need a stadium full of people rushing in to buy. They need exit liquidity.
That'd be good news.
Exactly. They need a headline that steers the crowd's pre-existing greed motive into a buy action. So coincidentally, right when they need to sell their massive position, you see a glowing article pop up. Company X is the future of AI. This analyst predicts 50% upside. Why everyone is buying Tech Corp.
And the crowd sees the incentive, the news, and their motive, their greed ignites, and they rush in to buy.
And the big player quietly sells into that buying pressure. They hand the bag to the crowd. So when you see a glowing article about a stock that has already gone up 300% in a year, you have to ask yourself, is this news trying to get me to buy so someone else can sell to me at the top?
Which leads directly to the second defensive question. Who benefits from this news?
This is where you trace the motive behind the release itself. Follow the money. Follow the benefit backward. Who wins if the crowd believes this and acts on it? And the document offers a really crucial tip on timing analysis here.
Yes, this was the big aha moment for me, the timing tell. It's so simple and so powerful.
Darwinian writes, and I'm paraphrasing here, If retail investors, that's the little guys, you and me, if we are the ones who benefit, the news usually comes after the move has already happened.
What does that look like?
It looks like this. A stock goes up 20% on a Tuesday for no apparent reason. Then on Wednesday morning, the news comes out explaining stock XYZ went up because of this great new development.
Right. It's an autopsy. It's explaining what already happened. The opportunity is gone.
It's reactive. But if a larger player benefits, specifically if they need to create liquidity so they can sell, the news often comes before or during their distribution phase. If you see a massive media blitz about how great a company is, and the stock is just hovering at an all-time high, not really going anywhere,
That's suspicious. That's very suspicious.
you are likely being served an incentive structure that is designed to make you the exit. You are being invited to the party just as the hosts are sneaking out the back door.
Okay, there's a specific quote here that I circled 3 times in my notes. It's a rule to live by, I think. If the news makes you feel urgency, that urgency is probably the product being sold.
That is probably the most important psychological defense in the whole text. Urgency, that feeling.
We've all felt it. Breaking news, flashing on the screen. Last chance to buy before the breakout. Market collapsing. Get out now. It's a physical sensation. You feel a tightening in your chest. Your heart rate goes up.
And that physical sensation is your critical thinking shutting down. That is a biological fact. Urgency bypasses the frontal cortex, the logic and reason part of your brain. It activates the lizard brain, the amygdala, the part of you that runs from tigers without thinking.
And if you feel a rush to act,
That rush was likely manufactured, it was designed.
because if the opportunity was really that obvious and that good, the smart money would have already taken it quietly, without telling anyone.
Exactly. If I find a literal gold mine in my backyard, do I run into the town square and scream, "Free gold! Everybody come get it!"
No,
Yeah,
you mine it. You tell no one until you're done.
you mine it quietly. So if the smart money is broadcasting an opportunity to you with flashing lights and a sense of urgency, it's almost certainly because they need you to do something for them. Usually that means taking a position they desperately want to get out of.
So urgency is the red flag. The moment you feel it, that's the signal to pause.
Pause, take a deep breath, and look for the steering. Ask, who wants me to hurry and why?
Now, I can hear the skeptics. You might be listening to this and thinking, but guys, I check my facts. I don't just blindly follow headlines. I verify the data. I do my own research. And this brings us to what might be the most insidious part of this whole framework, Section 4, the power of selective truth.
This is the scariest part of the document for me, personally, because it explains why the mantra of doing your own research, or DYOR, often fails so miserably. It explains how smart people get fooled.
We live in the age of fact-checking, right? If someone just makes something up, if they lie, they get caught. If a CEO lies about earnings numbers, they can go to jail.
True, but outright lying, fabrication, that's amateur hour.
Why?
Because it's risky, it's fragile. If I tell you a fake number, you can check it, you can debunk it, and I lose all credibility forever. The game is over. The operators, the professionals, they don't rely on lies.
So what do the pros do?
They use selective truth. The document explains that the most effective, most durable manipulation isn't in what is said. It is in what is omitted, what is emphasized, and when it is released.
So the individual facts being presented are actually true.
Technically, yes. And that's the genius of it. The facts survive the fact check. They feel honest because they are honest, just radically, dangerously incomplete.
Can you give us a clear example? Let's just construct a hypothetical scenario.
Okay, let's invent a company. We'll call it Tech Corp. Now, imagine in the last quarter, 3 significant things happened at Tech Corp.
Okay.
Fact 1, they increased their revenue by a respectable 10%. Fact 2, they opened a beautiful new flagship store in London. And fact 3, their CEO quietly sold half of his personal shares, and the highly respected chief financial officer quit unexpectedly.
Okay, all 3 of those are verifiable facts.
All true. Now, if I am an operator, a big fund, and I want to pump the stock price so I can sell my large position at a high, what do?
You focus on the good stuff.
I commission a report, or I brief some friendly journalists, and I emphasize fact 1 and fact 2. The headline is, Tech Corp revenue soars 10% as new London store opens to fanfare. I show you charts of the revenue growth. I show you glossy photos of the store opening. I get analysts on TV to talk about their brilliant international expansion.
And what about the CFO quitting and the CEO selling?
I simply don't mention it. It's omitted. Or, if I have to include it for legal reasons, I bury it in a tiny footnote on page 40 of a dense report that nobody will read.
So I, the diligent researcher, come along and I decide to do my own research. I check your story. I go look up the revenue numbers. They're correct, up 10%. I check the news about the store opening. It's real. There are pictures.
And you feel validated.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
feel smart. You think to yourself, I checked the facts. This story holds up. This is a solid buy.
Yeah.
You feel intelligent because you verified the data. You have no idea that the selection of those facts was perfectly curated for you upstream.
You're looking at the world through a straw. The view is accurate, but you can't see the fire that's burning just outside the frame.
Perfect analogy. Now, what if you wanted to do the opposite? What if you wanted me to sell? What if you wanted to crash the price so you could buy in cheaper?
You run the other story.
I run the other story. The headline is, Tech Corp CFO quits abruptly amidst heavy insider selling. I focus entirely on fact 3. I don't mention the revenue growth at all. Again, the facts are 100% true, but the framing, the selection, creates a totally different emotional response. I steer your fear instead of your greed.
It's like a magician's trick. Misdirection.
Wow.
You're so busy looking at the card they want you to look at, you don't see what they're doing with the other hand.
And you think you have free will, but your attention is being expertly managed. Darwinian puts it perfectly, and this is another chilling quote. They're not being lied to, they're being curated.
Being curated. It makes you feel like a museum exhibit or something on an influencer's Instagram feed.
In trading, the candle on the chart is a real fact. The volume number is a real fact. But which news story hits your feed at that exact moment? Which analyst gets the airtime on TV? When does that press release get published? That is where the real edge lies.
So the defense. The defense cannot be skepticism of facts. Because the facts are true. If you just check facts, you'll stay trapped in their frame.
Correct. The defense must be skepticism of selection and timing. You have to graduate to the next level of thinking. You have to constantly ask, why these facts and why now? What is missing from this picture? What is the counter-narrative that is being deliberately omitted?
Truth is the best raw material for manipulation.
It is. It's the best. It's harder to trace. It's impossible to disprove. And the most effective part is that the target you does the convincing yourself. You find the confirming truth, so you believe the conclusion. You don't realize the conclusion was baked into the selection from the very beginning.
Okay, so we've established that the system is steering us, that news is an incentive structure, that truth is being curated to get us to act. This naturally leads to the big question. Who is doing this?
Yeah.
Who are they, this omnipotent they?
Right, and this is where we have to be very, very careful with our mental models. We don't want to do all this great diagnostic work and then fall into the trap of lazy conspiracy thinking.
The document discusses 2 competing models for understanding the powers that be, or whatever you want to call them. The puppet master and the traffic police.
And most people, by default, gravitate towards the puppet master model.
What does that look like?
That's the classic conspiracy theory view. There is a shadowy group of elites. You know, the Illuminati, the deep state, the lizard people, whatever your preferred flavor is, who control every single price tick, every news story, every political outcome. They pull all the strings. We are just marionettes who dance.
It's an attractive worldview in a strange way. It's almost comforting.
It is deeply seductive because it explains everything. It's a simple answer to a complex world. Why did I lose money on my trade? The puppet master did it. Why is the world so chaotic? The puppet master wants it that way. It simplifies the chaos into a single evil antagonist.
But Darwinian says this is a dangerous model.
Very dangerous for 2 key reasons. 1, it leads to paranoia, which is a terrible state of mind for making decisions. And 2, and this is the more important part, it leads to paralysis.
The logic being, if they control everything, why should I even try?
Exactly. If the game is totally and completely rigged from top to bottom, then you have no agency, you have no power, you might as well just give up and watch Netflix. But more importantly, from a practical standpoint, it's just not an accurate model of how the world works.
Why not?
The world is too chaotic for total control, the market is too big, there are too many variables, no one controls the ocean, you can't script a hurricane.
So what is the better, more functional model?
The traffic police.
I love this analogy. It's so clear. Break it down for us.
Okay, think about a single traffic cop standing at a massive, busy intersection in a huge city like New York or Tokyo.
Okay, I have the image.
Now, does that cop build the cars?
No, of course not.
Does the cop decide where every single driver wants to go for dinner or who they're going to visit?
No. The drivers all have their own motives, their own fuel. They bring that to the intersection.
Does the cop create the kinetic energy of thousands of moving cars?
No.
But does the cop control the flow?
Yes, absolutely. He stands in the middle and points. You stop, you go left, you over there, go right. He directs the energy that already exists.
That is the role of the market maker, the operator, the smart money. They don't create the motive, the fuel. They don't make you greedy or fearful. You bring that with you. They don't usually create the global events, the wars, the pandemics, the technological breakthroughs, but they stand at the intersection, the key decision point, and they direct where that existing energy goes.
They position themselves at the intersection?
Yes, that is where the power lies. The power isn't in manufacturing behavior from scratch, which is incredibly difficult and expensive. It's in seeing a massive wave of greed coming down the highway and just setting up a sign that says, "This way to riches," which leads everyone into a distribution zone where they can quietly sell their shares. They don't push the cars, they just change the signs.
This makes so much more sense.
Hmm.
And it also explains why the big players don't always win. It explains their losses.
Exactly. If they were all powerful puppet masters, they would never lose. Their plans would never fail. But traffic police get run over sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes the traffic is just too heavy, the stampede is too strong. Sometimes a truly unexpected event happens, an earthquake, a surprise election result, and the stampede of panic ignores the police officer and just runs him over. Sometimes drivers just ignore the signal and cause a crash.
Or sometimes there's another more powerful traffic cop down the road who is directing the flow in the other direction, and their signals conflict.
Right. They aren't omnipotent. They are just better positioned. They are standing at the intersection with a bird's eye view while you are stuck in the car, only able to see the bumper in front of you. They have a better view. They know how the lights are timed.
So the practical takeaway here is that you don't need to unmask the Illuminati. You don't need to know the secret identity of the traffic cop. You don't need their home address.
No, that's a waste of energy. You just need to recognize the intersection. You need to look at the chart or the news and say, I see a traffic cop. I see him directing everyone into the bylane. Do I really want to go there? Or is he directing us all into a massive traffic jam so he can clear the road for himself to go the other way?
There's a fantastic quote here that sums it up. You don't need to know who's distributing. You just need to recognize distribution and not supply the exit liquidity.
That's it. It's about observation, not conspiracy. It's about recognizing patterns, not enemies. It's about mechanics.
This mindset shift, from fighting a shadowy puppet master to just navigating traffic, this leads us to the final major section of the report, which is about dismantling the bad bandar mentality.
Bad bandar. So, for context for our listeners, bandar is a colloquial term in some Asian trading communities for the operator or the market maker, the house.
Yeah.
The big player who moves the market.
And the bad bandar mentality is basically the habit of blaming this operator for all of your losses.
It's the cry of the loser, to be blunt. It's the person who says, I lost because the bandar rigged it. I can't win because the market is manipulated. They hunted my stop loss.
We've all heard it. And let's be honest, we've all probably said it at some point. It feels good to say it.
It feels great because it protects your ego. It wasn't your fault you made a bad trade. It was their fault for being evil manipulators. But Darwinian argues this is the single most destructive frame you can adopt, not because it's necessarily false manipulation does happen, as we've just spent half an hour discussing, but because it externalizes responsibility.
It removes your agency.
Completely. It makes you a permanent victim.
And victims don't make money. Victims don't navigate complex systems well.
If you think it's all them, you stop learning. You stop looking for the pattern and you start looking for the enemy. It just breeds resentment, suspicion, and anger.
And anger is a blinding emotion. It's terrible fuel for decision-making.
It's the worst fuel. If you get angry at the ocean for having waves, you will drown. You need to respect the ocean, understand the tides, and learn to swim. So the document proposes a radical reframe. We need to consciously flip the script on how we talk to ourselves about our wins and, more importantly, our losses.
Let's walk through these specific reframes. The report lays them out like mental exercises.
Okay, let's do the first one. The typical thought is, they are manipulating me.
Right. I'm the target.
The reframe is, liquidity is being directed, where do I want to stand?
Oh, that's good. That shifts it from personal abuse to a question of geography. It's not about me. It's about where am I standing? Am I standing on the train tracks or am I standing on the platform?
Exactly. It removes the emotion and replaces it with strategy. Here's the second one. The typical thought, they are evil.
The bad guys.
The reframe is, they are positioned at the intersection. Am I aware of that?
So it becomes a question of your own awareness. It's not about their morality.
Yeah.
The traffic cop isn't evil for directing traffic. He's just doing his job. The market maker isn't evil for selling his shares. He's just taking profits.
And here's the hardest one. This is the one that really separates the pros from the amateurs, the survivors from the victims. The typical thought is, I got cheated.
I was robbed.
The reframe is, I supplied exit liquidity because I didn't read the structure.
Ouch. That one stings. That takes full responsibility.
It stings, but it empowers. Because if I made the mistake of not reading the structure, then I can learn to read it better next time. The power is back in my hands. But if I was just cheated by an omnipotent evil force, then I can never learn. I can never improve. I'm doomed to be cheated forever.
It puts the trader, the decision maker, back in the driver's seat of their own car.
The market isn't moral or immoral. The news isn't good or bad in a moral sense. It is just flow. It is energy moving through a system. Your job isn't to fight the traffic police or scream at them. Your job is to see the intersection clearly and choose your route.
So we are moving from being an angry trader who keeps losing to being a calm trader who learns to position better.
Calm is the superpower. When you can see the structure, you don't get angry, you don't panic. You just observe and say, oh, look, they are manufacturing urgency over there to sell their position. Interesting. I think I'll stand over here and watch.
Interesting. I won't participate. That is the level of Zen we are aiming for.
That's the goal, detached observation of the mechanism.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today. Motive versus incentive. News is a steering mechanism. The danger of selective truth. The traffic police model. I want to try to synthesize all of this. The document gives us these portable sentences.
I love that term.
It's great. They're like cheat codes. They're rules to hold on to when the pressure is on and your brain is turning to mush.
These are your mantras. When the market is crashing or the news is screaming at you or your boss is pressuring you into a decision, you don't have time to go back and reread a 20-page report. You need a single sentence that can snap you back to reality.
Okay, let's volley these back and forth. I'll give the sentence. You give me the quick punchline on how to use it in the real world.
Let's do it.
Okay, number 1. Motives are the fuel. Incentives are the steering mechanism.
Use this for diagnostics. Whenever you're confused by your own behavior or someone else's, stop and check the tank. What's the motive? And check the road signs. What's the incentive? Don't confuse the two.
Number 2. If the news makes you feel urgency, that urgency is probably the product being sold.
This is your emergency brake pedal. The second you feel that rush, that need to act now, stop. Ask who is selling that feeling of rush to you and why. Urgency is the enemy of profit and good decisions.
Number 3. The manipulation isn't in what's said. It's in what's omitted, what's emphasized, and when it's released.
Look for the invisible edit. Don't just fact-check the story. Context-check the story. Ask yourself, what crucial piece of information isn't being said here?
Number 4. The defense isn't skepticism of facts. It's skepticism of selection and timing.
This is the advanced move. Always ask, why this fact? And why now? Why is this headline about a company's success appearing at this exact price point after a huge run-up?
Number 5. Truth is the best raw material for manipulation.
Use this to remind yourself not to be fooled by accuracy. A perfectly true fact can still lead you to a completely false conclusion if the context is rigged.
And finally, number 6, which ties into the traffic police model. You don't need to know who's distributing. You just need to recognize distribution and not supply the exit liquidity.
Focus on the what, not the who. You don't need to know the name of the driver to avoid getting hit by the car. Just see the car coming and get out of the way.
I love that. Focus on the structure, not the personalities. It cuts through so much noise and paranoia.
And that brings us to the final note from Darwinian report, which I think is a beautiful way to wrap this all up. It really zooms out from the market to, well, to everything.
Go ahead, read it for us.
He writes, the domain is decoration. The structure is the thing.
The domain is decoration. That sounds a little cryptic. Unpack that for us.
It means it doesn't matter if we are talking about the stock market or a presidential election or office politics or even a family argument. The specific details, the stock tickers, the candidates' names, the issues on the table, the political parties, that's all just decoration. It's the paint on the car.
But the engine is the same.
The structure of human energy is the same underneath it all.
It's always motive and incentive. It's always fuel and steering.
Everywhere you look, there is human energy. That's the motive. Fear, love, greed, tribalism, and there are structures being built, the incentives, trying to steer it in a particular direction. Someone is always standing at the intersection directing traffic.
So if you could learn to read the structure in the stock market, where it's so obvious because of the money,
You can learn to read it in the news. You can read it in a negotiation with your boss. You can read it when you see a social movement forming online. You stop getting swept away by the current and you start seeing the riverbanks. You see the shape of the flow.
So the challenge to you, the listener, is
Mm.
this. The next time you feel a strong uh, fear, greed, anger, excitement being driven by a headline or a tweet or a price chart, just stop.
Just for a second, stop and look for the traffic police. Ask yourself, who is directing this flow? What are they trying to accomplish? And do I really want to go that way?
Don't be the greater fool. Don't be the exit liquidity for someone else's narrative.
See the structure, choose your position, and stay calm.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you at the next intersection.